And right now we're in Psalm 107. We're seeing a pattern. It emerges 4 times in the psalm: distress, desperation, deliverance, declaration. Distress. Sometimes we bring it on ourselves. Sometimes we arrive at it by God's providence. But it causes us to look up and to cry out and declare our dependence and our desperation for God. Makes us hungry for his intervention and for him. He gives us that intervention in himself along the way, and we experience deliverance. He brings us out of our distresses and troubles, and then he lets us declare the story. He lets us tell the story to people that don't know him. And this is the process of the Christian life. And this is the process we're at in Psalm 107. So we're at verse 23 through 32, and we're tracking along with someone that's gone out into a big ship into great waters to do business. And they're seeing God's wonder in the deep waters. They've embraced responsibility. They've gotten out on into the deep. They've launched out for God in faith to follow him in obedience, but it's brought them into trouble. Why? Because of storms. God's allowed storms to rise up, and they've been tossed to and fro like a drunken man. They're staggering. They can't get their bearings. They're at their wits' end, verse 27. They've come to the end of their knowledge and experience, and they're wondering, why did I ever get out on these waters? Why did I ever obey God? And we left that person right there yesterday. And if you're at your wits' end, here's your go-to. Here's your go-to verse whenever you're at your wits' end. Then, when I'm at my wits' end, when life is so stormy that it's made me dizzy with vertigo, I've lost all orientation, then they cry unto the Lord in their trouble. They cry unto the Lord in their trouble. Here it is again. Every single situation, they cry to the Lord. They look up, they say, God, I need you. I'm in trouble. We've already studied. Sometimes it's trouble of my own making. Sometimes it's the trouble of sin that I was born into. Sometimes it's my own rebellion. It's my own foolishness. But this time, it's my obedience that got me into trouble. It's my surrender, and I'm in trouble, and I look up and I cry to God from that trouble. So now I'm in trouble. You could say it's not self-inflicted trouble. It's God-ordained trouble. It's providential. It's sovereign trouble. And he bringeth them out of their distresses. So I love this. I love this in so many ways. But here's what this tells me. God is never going to lose me in a storm into which he led me. God is never going to lose me in a storm into which he led me. And this is a person that was led into this storm. And God is at the helm of the storm. He's controlling the storm. He's directing the storm. But he's still teaching me in the storm. And he's teaching me that I am his, not the storm's. The storm doesn't own me. Even when I'm in a storm, he still retains possession, control of my vessel and my life. And he's going to take me into that storm to show me wonders, to show me his works. He expects me to cry out to him when I'm distressed. What's the distress? Well, the distress is the soul is melted. The distress is emotional. Listen, it's very important that you get this. The distress is not circumstantial. The storm is not the problem. The anxiety is the problem. This storm is God's storm. The soul melted, the staggering, the reeling to and fro, the drunken man experience of losing orientation and coming to my wits' end. That anxiety that rises up in me and fear, that's the problem. And how would God purge me of anxiety and fear if he didn't first bring me into it? Okay. And how does he purge me? How does he bring that out? He brings me into a storm, lets me cry out to him, and then he delivers me from my distress. Now, by the way, in verse 28, the praying person is delivered emotionally and psychologically, but not circumstantially. Okay? In verse 28, the circumstances have not changed. The distress is gone. The storm rages on. That's a pretty powerful thought. God can calm me. He can calm the storm in me before he calms the storm around me. But then verse 29, inevitably, this is what he's going to do. He maketh the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. God doesn't bring you into a storm to drown you in the waves. He brings you into a storm to show you how he can control storms. He brings you into a storm to show you his wonders. He brings you into storms to show off. And then your soul melts. And he says, don't be that way. Cry to me. Like, tell me that your soul is melted. Tell me about your distress. I can deliver you from your distress. I just want you, I wanted to show you the storm. I didn't want you to freak out. And he delivers you from your distress. And then when he's good and ready in his time, he can make the storm calm too. So your God controls your storms. If you're going to follow him, he's going to lead you into some of them. You don't have to freak out. He doesn't want you to be distressed. He wants to show you the storm. I'm trying to think of some good illustrations. I guess the first time I took Chad and Charlie to Disney World would be a good illustration. Taking Chad and Charlie to meet Mickey. The first time it happened, I'm excited. I want to show you Mickey Mouse. I want you to take your picture with Mickey Mouse. And I want to introduce these little children to this whole new world of adventure. Disney World, Magic Kingdom, Mickey Mouse. And all Chad could see is a big creature with a big nose and big ears and big eyes, and he freaked out. He was crying on Papa's shoulder. But you know what he did? He turned to Papa and he cried. And you know what Papa did? He delivered him from his distress. He calmed him. And he reached out and touched Mickey's nose, and he patted Mickey's arm, and he showed Chad that Mickey was safe. And Papa helped deliver Chad and Charlie from distress. And so did Daddy and Mommy and Nana. And it's happened with Santa Claus, and it's happened in other times in other places, but it's probably going to happen with you as you follow God. You're going to freak out at the storms that he brings, but then he's going to say, cry out to me and I can resolve the distress. I can resolve the distress, and I can take care of you. And when it's time, I can calm the storm as well. So it really encourages me to think that God doesn't just throw me into storms and then go, oops, where'd he go? It's really encouraging to me that God is in control of my storms, but it's really awesome to me to think, now God brings me into the storm to show me how amazing he is, and to show me how in control he is of everything. And he's going to deliver me if I cry out to him. He will calm my heart. And then eventually the storm is going to go away too. And he can make the calm come and the waves be still.